Hi, welcome back to my channel, Casablanca Cargo, and this is Kathy, and this is part 2 of the composition notebook, Grungy Coffee Sleeve notebook cover. And I'll be working with an empty coffee bag and a Amazon packaging, the composition notebook, and of course our tiles that we made in part 1. So what I plan to do is open up my coffee bag, clean it out, and use it as part of the cover for my composition notebook. Now for the rest of the cover, I'm going to use a coffee bag. I'm going to show you a little bit how to get it ready. You pull the closure off. Eventually it will come off. And I just took the seam on the back and opened it up without actually cutting it open, and I got that. So you want to take your coffee bag, you want to wash it. I used I think it was Dawn dish detergent, and let it dry, and that way it gets all the grease from the coffee beans or the coffee grounds out of the bag. And I want to put the Komodo dragon part in the center of the back of the cover, so that's I'm kind of eyeballing where it's going to go. And then when I flip over the composition notebook, part of it will cover the spine. And then I will put the tiles back on top of that part and glue the tiles to the actual notebook. I may change this up when I actually do this, but this is my thought of what I'm going to do going forward. So I'm going to take scissors, I'm going to cut off the excess from the coffee bag and cut off the sides so that it is trimmed and fits the cover of the notebook. And I'm going to take the Amazon mailer, pull it apart, and I'm going to sew that to the coffee bag so that it will give it some support, and it will help me to glue that to the cover, because the mylar or whatever the coffee bag is made of is very difficult to glue down. And also give it a little bit of padding, and also have that wonderful kind of a crunch sound when you use the notebook. So for the cover of my Starbucks bag, I decided to sew it, and I also wanted the dragon to be in the middle. Well, as I was going along, I discovered that it was not quite in the middle like I liked, so I had to cut off a portion, which made the cover just a little bit smaller, but I can still work with it. I traced around the composition notebook and extended it and gave myself about 1/4 of an inch to be able to sew. For the sewing portion, I first sewed around the perimeter, and then I trimmed it down, and then I sewed channels into the middle of the bag as a type of a quilting effect. It puts all the layers together, and I like the look. I thought it was fun. As you can see there's the front and the back, and the front again. For my cover, I decided to use fabric seam binding. You can also use duct tape, or you can just leave it as is. You don't even have to sew it. You could just glue it all together. The seam binding I made was from an old sheet that I cut into a strip, or ripped into a strip, and it measures 1.5 inches wide. You fold it in half and iron it, and then fold the ends into the middle and iron that, and you get your seam binding. and then I clamped it all the way around the coffee bag. The tricky part is sewing it. I used a heavy-duty needle. I had to walk it around the corners because it was very thick. Even though my machine has a hump jumper, I couldn't get it through. The finished Starbucks bag measures 11 3/4 in width and approximately 11 1/4 in length. In part 3, we'll fix some things, we'll glue some things, and hopefully we'll have a really pretty cover to show you. Stay tuned.